Hi everyone, welcome to the IoT Hero Show, my weekly showcase of thought leadership in the Internet of Things. My name is Tom Raftery, I'm the Global IoT Evangelist for SAP, and now, on with the show. Hi everyone, welcome to the IoT Hero Show. My name is Tom Raftery, I'm a futurist and IoT evangelist for SAP, and with me on the show today I have EJ. EJ, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure thing, Tom. My name is ejkenney. I'm the Global Head of Consumer Products with SAP. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Okay. And EJ, why are you on the show today?
Well, I'll tell you, Tom, I've been following your podcast. I know you do some breaking ground work with IoT, and certainly Internet of Things is a huge topic in consumer products, and we've been engaging with our customers and helping them develop an IoT strategy. And as part of that, we did some research working with a company called EKN that we're very excited about. I think it really points to some significant industry trends as it relates to IoT, and also how IoT fits into an overall transformation agenda for consumer products companies. And I'll tell you, Tom, consumer products is going through more change now than we've seen in the past 50 years. And as we look forward in the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to change even more significantly. And I see IoT really being at the center of that change.
Okay, when I think of consumer products and IoT, I typically think of things like the Nest thermostats or smoke detectors or the Philips light bulbs or things. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Really, actually, a more comprehensive. That certainly is part of it. That we're seeing more and more products where sensors or IoT or they're IoT enabled to either provide a service or some additional benefit to consumers, and also the data that is the exhaust of those interactions also is incredibly valuable, like Fitbits as an example. But when we look at IoT, it really goes, especially for consumer products companies, it goes much broader than that because the industry has been going through massive changes right now, and really the genesis behind this is a squeeze on margins and a profitable growth challenge. And the consumer products business has gotten far more complex, far more diverse. And consumers' attitudes about products and brands have changed substantially. So that when we look at IoT, we see it applied not only to those processes that touch the consumer, but also going back into the supply chain, into how they deal with retailers, as well as the logistics, the product quality, and even back into the fields in the case of food products, of understanding how changes in the field and changes in raw materials can affect product quality. So it really is the full breadth of all the way from the farm to fork, if you will, that the IoT can be applied to deliver some very transformative benefits.
Okay, and you've done this study and you're publishing or have published this report. Can you tell me some of the key findings of the report?
Yeah, and just to give you an idea of the scope of it, it covers 5 global markets, the U.S., the United Kingdom, India, Japan, and Germany, over 176 senior executives in the industry. And I think when we look at most of the executives know about Internet of Things, they know about some of the potential benefits, but more than 50% of them identify that they struggle with how to integrate IoT into their existing business processes. And I'm sure, Tom, you've seen this in other areas. So often, as you can get data in different levels than you've ever had it possible, it's hard to integrate it into a process that wasn't designed for that. Mm-hmm. And a significant portion of the population, 41%, have a clear idea of how they would like to use IoT. But they're trying to learn from the leaders and the first movers. They're taking more of a pilot approach, and in a incremental and a piloted approach really is only going to get incremental benefits because it's not tied into the end to end.
Right.
And also, frankly, we saw a significant difference in the various countries in terms of their interest in where they want to focus Internet of Things. If we look from a global perspective, they're focused in categorized in three major strategic areas. One, speed. How can they improve their response to market, response to demand? How can they reduce internal cycle time? The second would be more product focus around product quality, improving quality, product quality, improving innovation. And then the third would be in the cost and efficiency side, reduction of transportation costs, which is a huge cost in an overall consumer products company. And also 22% of them identified supply chain insights. And that kind of speaks to the complexity of getting products to market these days.
So we've seen EJ that there have been differences across regions. What are the other big differences that we're seeing in this report?
Yeah, there's as you may know, consumer products, as we define it, is a pretty broad industry, everywhere from food and beverage to health and personal care products, as well as durable manufacturing goods. So not only do we see regional difference, but we see difference in terms of areas in which companies want to apply IoT. So as an example, I believe India, Japan, and Germany had a much higher percentage of respondents that were focused around raw material fluctuation and using IoT to help understand that fluctuation and then manage the product quality. So you can imagine dairy as an example. There's a naturally occurring material that is fluctuating in terms of milk, fat, solids, and others. And they want to be able to better predict and relate environmental conditions that cause the raw material, in this case milk, and the milk qualities, so that they can understand before the milk comes into the door what is the likely milk quality, milk solids, and properties, as well as using IoT technologies to test and to understand that before it even gets to the dairy manufacturing. So by understanding this, they can then determine what product should they put it in and what markets should that milk go to. So you can imagine the impact in terms of not only product quality and meeting specifications, but more in terms of cost and efficiency and transportation. Because when we look at across all consumer products, two of the largest cost items in the P&L are the material costs. So yield is really important. And second is transportation costs, transportation and handling costs. So IoT, certainly, the study clearly pointed out raw material fluctuations, product quality, logistics, and also this notion of using IoT to reduce time. In the industry, we're seeing a massive collapse of time that's come in the digital age. So planning cycles are infinitely shorter. Consumers' willingness to wait for product is almost non-existent. And so many direct-to-consumer channels have opened up. So this compression of time is really putting a great need on consumer products companies to apply technologies like IoT, because the current processes they're using are just too long and are too time redundant.
Interesting. Try telling that to people who are waiting for a new iPhone 10 and have to wait till November. But
exactly, that may be the only product that people are actually going to wait for.
Go on, you're going to say?
No, that's I think that is such an unusual phenomenon, and Apple deserves all the credit in the world for how they've done it. But most consumers are simply our expectations as consumers have increased substantially, and we have so many different ways that we can get products that's really creating a growth challenge for consumer products companies, because there's a lot more competition, a lot more ways to get products into the hands of the markets. And also, the other thing that's fundamentally driving the industry is that the new growth that companies are going to see is going to come predominantly from their existing customer base, not from securing new consumers. So how can they, CP companies are looking at how can they use IoT to better understand you as a consumer, understanding the context of your life. When do you eat, as an example, or when do you shop? What are your needs? What are your requirements? How can I use real-time data streams from small segments, whether it's a segment of one like appealing specifically to you, or very, very small micro segments of people like you, so that they can respond, engage, and increase their share of stomach to you as a consumer. That's where the growth is going to come. So there really is a growth imperative here as well.
So that's all around the data, really, isn't it? And using the data from the devices.
Absolutely. And I'll give you a couple. Smart shelves in retail is still at an early stage, but we've had customers like Red Bull and others that have been using connected coolers, and we're starting to see even connecting video stream feeds, so that I can understand not only did the cooler door get open, but what branded product got pulled out, and to a certain degree, what's the gender of the consumer, and I can get that real time. So that now I can start to look at all of the retail outlets that I have and say, okay, where should I invest more in terms of product marketing and placement? How should I merchandise my products in that individual store? Because now I have much more granular data. And even from an efficiency standpoint, it's depending upon how often that cooler is open, I may not have to deliver product as scheduled. I may be able to delay delivery and therefore save my sales team time in terms of stopping into a store that doesn't need to be restocked and replaced.
Right. Yeah. Smart routing. It's interesting because from what you're saying, it seems that a lot of the IoT benefits that are accruing to companies are around, as you say, smarter logistics and things that are basically invisible to us as consumers.
Absolutely. There's, like I said, there are certain IoT solutions and benefits that are being targeted towards embedded into the product, or are targeted to better understand consumers. But there's a vast opportunity to focus around improving product quality, improving the yield in the manufacturing process, through better understanding of inbound raw materials, and also the logistics cost that consumer products companies have is very substantial. And by the way, one other benefit area that is more emerging is to better understand the traceability, especially with natural products, understanding where they came, what field did they come from. And being able to ensure the quality and the safety throughout the value chain. That's another area that IoT is being applied.
Well, I guess what we're trying to do there is A, prevent recalls, and B, if there are recalls, know exactly where everything has to be recalled from.
Exactly, and also to appeal to consumers' trust in terms of that they can have traceability and understand that if you say it's organic, how do I know as a consumer that it is?
Right.
And consumers are heavily focused on health and wellness.
Yeah.
So there's a strong appeal to understand, where does my food come from, and is it safe? Is it sustainable? Is it something that is going to meet my health and wellness goals? And these are the types of things that, if IoT is applied properly, you can build trust with consumers, and ultimately that's going to help fuel growth.
Okay, cool. If you had, say, 3 key pieces of advice to give to consumer goods companies off the back of this report, what would those 3 pieces of advice be?
I would say first of all, if we look at what the leaders are doing, and this study, I think, does a very good job of differentiating between the leaders in the industry and the laggards, if you will. Mm-hmm. I'd say that taking IoT to go beyond just a pilot or proof of concept to doing anything at scale really requires that the companies invest in the skills, the capabilities, and most importantly, a platform that can handle this appropriately. When I mentioned, say, the smart coolers or any of the dairy scenarios, you're dealing with an enormous amount of data. Yep. You could literally pass through every time a cooler is opened.
Yep.
But having a platform that can kind of rationalize this and also be able to do analytics to understand patterns of behavior, patterns of and correlations, and having this in a platform perspective is absolutely vital. The other thing I would say is that, and this also goes in that category of going beyond a pilot, is IoT should be seen as a means to an end, and the end has to be more of an end-to-end orientation, so that if you're applying IoT to understand logistics, as an example, well, tying that into the entire logistics process is where companies will see a much greater benefit, rather than just focused on one aspect of logistics, whether it's warehousing or transportation. So I would say the 3 things would be platform, focus on skills and capabilities, and have this end-to-end orientation.
Excellent. EJ, if people want to find this report, do we have a website? Where should they go to find it?
I would suggest certainly our Twitter handle at SAP Consumer Products, or certainly our LinkedIn site in terms of SAP Consumer Products, or certainly at sap.com/consumer products are 3 good ways to do it. And if anyone certainly wants to speak to us directly, we'd be more than happy to do so, to provide our perspective and context. And I really hope we're very excited about the findings. I think that it does point out a clear call to action, and I think hopefully it will benefit a lot of consumer products companies that have been trying to figure this out. And I'll tell you, Tom, I think so many companies have been trying to solve this on their own, and they're really looking for this kind of information to focus their efforts and direct it in a way that others in the industry have seen some benefit thus far.
Excellent. EJ, that's been great. Thanks a million for coming on the show.
Well, my pleasure, Tom. Always great talking to you.